Hello, everyone, and welcome to Joint Laser, Leonardo Art and Science Evening Rendezvous, Laser New York and Laser CYLAND at the Institute of Contemporary Art in Yerevan, Armenia. Today's discussion is international media festivals and the evolution of transcultural communities is in conjunction with the CYLAND SciFest 15, which is opening tomorrow night. Leonardo Lasers are a program of international gatherings that brings artists, scientists, and technologists together for informal presentations, performances, conversations with the wider public. The mission of Lasers is to encourage contribution to the cultural environment by fostering interdisciplinary dialogue and opportunities for community building. We have an exciting speakers with us today. The Leonardo Laser Talk hosts in New York City, Levy and Patricia Olynyk, and Sargis Hovhannisyan. Laser CYLAND is very happy to collaborate with Laser New York on today's topic. As we're witnessing the developments of many new local digital communities, such as International Gumeri Art Week in Armenia and International Media Festival in Art and Science, including Leonardo Lasers, CYLAND, I.C.A, Ars Electronica, along with the need for exchange and knowledge of technological know-how, and search for sustainable global platform for dialogue, we hope this growth inspires to develop effective collaborative responses to the pressing social and environmental issue of our time. Today, we dive into exploration and discuss some of the ways artists and curators and art professionals are attempting to reimagine our future by reconciling often opposed values. What are our goals of the media festivals and digital communities? How they evolving? How does technology might evolve as a result? How do media festival open communication? What a sustainable global platform for dialogue on digital art and science? Are they international in scope or they grassroots? So let's dive into the exploration. Our first speaker is Levy. Levy is a multimedia artist, writer, who has explored complex systems since the mid-1980s, highlights them through the exhibitions, educational programs, and publications. Levy is a former College Art Association president, as well as she is co-chair of Leonardo Laser Talks in New York. She is exhibited widely, both in the United States and abroad. She worked with NASA and later find this invention such as nuclear chain reaction, which also preventing the toxic radioactive fallout. Levy is also art and science book editor from the series Taylor and Francis. Ellen, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I was waiting for more description. That's fine, that's great. Well, I'm going to be speaking, can you all hear me? I'm going to be speaking mostly from my own experience today. What we see happening right now is extraordinary, I think. We see culture going beyond geopolitical boundaries, beyond state, national, ethnic identities. And the premise of CYLAND sustainability is everywhere evident and very moving, and that we see people writing in languages that are foreign to them, speaking in languages they didn't know before. So this is extraordinary. and it's a global situation now. So we ask, what can art offer to this? For me, I look for two things at a gathering like this, which offers this amazing opportunity. I see these kinds of meetings as offering ideas about culture, cultural history, a kind of memory, but equally important, I see it as a focus on attention, our attention, what is important to look at, what is important not to be distracted by. And we see these questions raised in each and every exhibit. I thought I would start by giving my own experience of what an international community might be. And what I'll start with, next slide, please, may surprise you. This was taken in 2006. At the time, I was president of the College Art Association, which has between 1,300 and 1,400 members, although it's mostly Eurocentric and American. There are definitely people from the international community. So it's not what you might think of when you think of a transnational community. But in thinking about what I want you to say here, what I realize is that, in fact, they offered a service that I have seen very few places elsewhere. We had a marvelous legal counsel, pro bono, by the name of Jeffrey Kennard, who worked for de Beauvoir's, and he offered legal advice for free to artists and art historians who were grappling with some of the issues in publications, in exhibitions, and images. And it strikes me that we are now poised with this AI revolution and in need of this kind of service and knowledge on a global scale. This I see as something important that we're headed towards, where we can deliberate it. Next slide, please. So now I'll just show you CAA first occurred in 1911. It opened with a strong exhibition program that in fact anticipated the WPA project, so it was quite prestigious. And then almost mysteriously, by 1939, it had dropped that project. And part of what I saw as my own mission was trying to reinvigorate it and see whether we couldn't get one next. So this was the heart of the CAA, was its annual conference, where all sorts of agendas and points of views were presented. Another thing that was so important were publications. In 1996, I had published a special issue of Art Journal of Contemporary Art in Relationship to the Genetic Code, which was the first time the subject took place, and we brought in scientists. This was also true, by the way, of the conference next. And I love this. When we set up our laser, so Patricia is here, Victoria Vesna was part of it, and Allegra Snyder Fuller, Buckminster Fuller's daughter, who in her own right is a wonderful choreographer, who was also making films of choreography around the world, was there. Next, please. This was a program that we did for Ars Electronica. If there's time later, I know that we're each presenting a brief presentation right now, but there was Dr. Piroska Kopar, who was a medical ethicist, Alex Perlman, a bioethicist, Jill Scott, who was my teacher in my PhD, Siddhartha Ramakrishnan, a neuroscientist, and Paul Miller, aka DJ Spooky, and who's a multimedia sound artist, and of course Patricia, who will be speaking about her work. And what we did was we aired the question of basically whether science should be the province of the average citizen science. And we called it, next slide, gloves off, and here's our ring. Next, please. And I wanted to show the next two because after one of the lasers that we had, by the way, it was late in 2009 that we first had the first laser. One of the presenters was Norman Ballard, a laser artist, in fact, and he has since become in charge of Namjoon Paik's estate and took several of us on a tour. And you could see here Duchamp's bicycle wheel. And before that, that was the bra that was worn by a very famous Fluxus artist who was playing the cello, Charlotte Moorman. And so it's important also to realize that at our lasers, although digital culture is a very large part of it, new media, digital culture, there is something that we talk about all the time of the aura of the object, of the original. Next, please. More recently, just about 6 months ago, Caroline Jones from MIT, a wonderful art historian, presented a talk about the show she did at MIT. And she's a particularly interesting art historian because she has charted some of the changes that many of us have experienced from working as a solo artist alone in a studio setting to working out in the world, sometimes without a studio, and even more recently in science labs. This was one of her books, Machine in the Studio, that talks about the shift in context and content of American art. So let me leave you with one thought. One of the humorous things that I did with Jeff Cunard, who was our lawyer with CAA, is that we would set up situations of repartee. Well, what would happen? Should Eduardo Katz, should he be given with his fluorescent green protein in a bunny or a fish? Should he be given copyright? You know, where does that come down? Or in addition, Jenny Holzer's famous epigrams, supposed they were placed through genes into a fish to sort of randomly glow and put out epigrams. You know, these are the questions that are coming up, and I see even more of them coming up now that we enter AI. And one final comment. We see now that science and art are closer than ever. I dare you, all of you here, to tell me whether this question was asked by an artist or a scientist. Here's the question. Does a tree remember extreme malnutrition experienced during its childhood? How many of you think this is an artist question? I see 2. And how many scientists? In fact, it was by a scientist. And the question was made possible in a certain sense. It was made scientifically plausible because of the advent of epigenetics. So these are some of the changes that we are now seeing.
Thank you so much, Ellen. This is very thought-provoking. Thank you so much. And our second speaker is Patricia Olynyk. Patricia's work investigates science and technology-related themes and the way they shape our institutional structure and understanding of the world. Patricia also co-host of Leonardo Laser Talks in New York City. She exhibited widely both in the United States and worldwide, including Venice, Japan, Los Angeles International Biennial, the Brooklyn Museum, the National Academy of Science in Washington, D.C. Her writings were featured in Public Journal, Leonardo Journal, among other publications. Patricia, please.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Natalia, for hosting us, panelists. This has been a fascinating week of thinking about this panel, and I'm going to try to cut myself off at 10 minutes. I guess we'll advance. So obviously, you know who I am, and I'm really a big fan of digital art festivals. And we met a number of months ago, and we're thinking about several question prompts for this event. You know, what are the goals of digital media art festivals? How do they support transcultural evolution and build new communities and collectives? How are they evolving, and how do technologies evolve as a result? How do media festivals open communication? What are some of the models for international and grassroots events? And like Ellen, I will be speaking from my own personal experience because there is so much to say about this. It's impossible to squeeze it into 10 minutes. So, so here's just a short list of some of the media festivals. I'm way too many to get into. And of course, CYLAND, SciFest, and the CYLAND Media Lab is, of course, kind of an amazing model for these festivals. But as Ellen had mentioned as well, you know, some of the other top players, of course, are Ars Electronica, of course, Histories of Media, Art, Science, and Technology, Resources, meeting in Venice, I think, next week. And there's I.C.A and 1.0 Transmedial, Ann Arbor Film Festival are the ones that I've had some experience with. So, and of course, it's impossible to have discussions about contemporary art without talking about digital art and new media art, which of course includes anything involving the use of computers, interaction, virtual reality, augmented reality. Of course, AI is becoming increasingly big. And as is ChatGPT, and also wonderful programs used by a lot of my architecture colleagues that are doing, that are sort of combining using mid-journey language-based AI to produce new visual forms. So, so a lot of the festivals are linked to new innovations in digital technology and engineering and AI, and sort of spotlighting the culture of the host organization ends up reinforcing what, at least in the Academy, we call place discourse and place production, right? What is unique to the place that that festival is being hosted that adds a particular tenor or flavor to that festival? So how does CYLAND, now that we are all in Yerevan, spotlight to the world what is happening with art and culture here, as opposed to when it was being hosted in St. Petersburg, right? So this is really an important question, especially if we consider that we're living in a global context. Can we really say that something has a particular local meaning or local flavor, right? Whether that's the writing about the art or the art itself. And what does a transcultural set of connections look like in Yerevan, as opposed to, for example, some of the exhibitions that also showcase digital art, but they're not digital art exhibitions per se. So I'm thinking about Documenta in Kassel, Germany. I'm thinking about the Venice Biennale. I'm thinking about a lot of the other international festivals that still showcase digital art, but they're not digital art festivals, right? So Ellen and I had the good fortune to host in one of our New York Blazers, Bruce Altschuler, who wrote the book Salon to Biennial, Exhibitions That Made History. So my question would be, so I'll be throwing out a lot of questions to the audience today. What digital media festivals will make history, right? There are so many of them. Festivals, the two things that I think about primarily with festivals, they, number one, gather people from different backgrounds for certain kinds of discussions, inspiration, sharing of innovations. And they serve as a tool for the presentation. They also serve to be sort of art fairs, although they don't tend to be market oriented per se. But they also, as I said earlier, they highlight something quite unique about the place that they are hosted. So they do both things. They're both global and local simultaneously. Maybe they're local, right? Maybe there's such a thing as to be about global and local at the same time. So, I think, thank you. So what does a transcultural set of connections look like in Yerevan as opposed to Linz, Kassel, or Venice? How does location support gathering and longevity of connections over time? So I think the longevity question is also very big here. I think the festivals bring together people for these very intensive experiences where we're all sort of sharing in a festival-like atmosphere. And I've already mentioned the festival does a whole lot of different things. But what is the possibility for sustained connections out of these different festivals? So some of the more memorable experiences I've had at digital art festivals are on this list, right? That the festival serves as a kind of laboratory. It serves as a spotlight to view new innovations in technology. It serves as an incubator and a place where serendipitous conversations can occur. So what do I mean by that? I mean that you might actually be in a room with someone who is from naval architecture and marine engineering at one of these festivals, and that will set up a completely new, unforeseeable set of connections. And we say it has a kind of generative component to it, right? So I think that the Digital Art Festival is a kind of place where it sets up the opportunity for these kinds of conversations to occur. So the festival is also a generator of futures. It's a site for the critical understanding of technology. It's the place to convene coders and those who wish to program. It's a wonderful social experiment. And it's a place to spotlight the contemporary creative industries. And it's a site of new forms of curation. And this, I would also say, is the big thing that highlights CYLAND, because I became, we actually hosted Anna France at one of our New York Blazers quite a number of years ago. And then I became involved in the festival as a curator. And so my first foray in was to participate in the curation of the festival with curators from around the world. This is a distinctly different kind of project than, for example, the Venice Biennale, where a single curator or a team of curators, a small team of curators is named, and then the curation of all of those exhibitions falls somehow under one umbrella. The CYLAND approach is a much more mosaic approach as opposed to a kind of a synthetic approach. In Ars Electronica, like CYLAND, which is based on Nassim Nicholas Taleb's book Anti-Fragile this year, and the topic of vulnerability. So CYLAND is always tethered to an important cultural question. Ars Electronica, I think, is as well. So their theme this year is who owns the truth? And these are major questions that are driving contemporary culture so I see this as real content building, right? That to have a digital festival under the umbrella of a larger, timely, and relevant theme is really content building. It has tremendous potential. And you can see, like CYLAND, Ars Electronica has performances, exhibitions, conferences and lectures, workshops, future lab, all sorts of guided programs. And I think these are the kinds of things that give it a lot of longevity. I teach sometimes every second year. I bring my graduate students to Berlin, and I teach in Berlin. And Transmedial is a big festival there that looks at the digital world and looks at the cultural world and what emerges from institutional fields of production. So Transmedial is one that might be, this is something that they do very, very well, is to also express a critical understanding of technology. So this would be the focus of this digital art festival, Histories of Media, Art, Science, and Technology, which is happening in Venice next week. They are in recognizing the increasing significance of media art in our culture. The conference and the platform act as a kind of archive for the histories of media art. So they have a lot of documentation of media art history, and it's that documentation, I think, that is their strong suit. And then something that I was involved in when I was still teaching at the University of Michigan was the Ann Arbor Art Festival, which really did something quite extraordinary. They're a premier forum for independent filmmakers and artists. And each year, the festival engages audiences with remarkable cinematic experiences. That includes digital art and expanded cinema. And so because of their very open-endedness for experimental processes, they were the one film festival that really distinguished themselves because of really dealing with experimental media very early on, back in the 60s, when it was established by George Manupelli. And I can tell you, because the university was so deeply involved in this film festival, that programs and curricula got developed around this program, and those programs and curricula would then co-evolve and cross-inform the festival the following year. The whole city would take that entire week off. We were asked to open our houses, our homes, to host guests. So the entire town just sort of shuts down to host this festival. And in addition to then the lay audience being so deeply involved with it, they also have something called a tour stops. So after they curate this incredible exhibition, they put it out into the international community, and other institutions host it. So this is a really, I think, interesting model as well that serves the longevity and the success of that festival. So that's it for me, and I hope I didn't go over 10 minutes, and now I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Sargis Hovhannisyan. He's an artist, curator of the International Gumi Art Week in Armenia, and he also a director of the Natalia Kolodzei Cultural Foundation in Yerevan. He also curates a lot of other independent projects. From 2013 to 2019, he worked as a lecturer at the Gumuri branch of the Academy of Fine Arts in Armenia. He also participated in various group and solo exhibitions, art festivals, artist exchange programs, international biennials in Armenia, Hungary, Poland, Germany, Austria, France, Turkey, Russia, Ukraine, Moldova, Latvia. And today he'll be presenting on his experience for the International Gumi Art Week. Sargis, please.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for this opportunity to be here and to present Second International Gumi Art Week. I will speak little just for the city, for the Gumi, and after that I will show the places, exhibitions, and some artists in residency will be held in Armenian different regions. Gümrük Armenia is provinced is an urban municipal community and the second largest city of Armenia, serving as the administrative center of Gilad province in the northwestern part of the country. By the end the 19th century, when the city was known as Alexandropol, the city became renowned as a cultural hub and city. Still is now we calling cultural city of Armenia. Right after the independence, Armenia started the process of renaming geographic name of the cities, connected with Soviet prominent figures. As such, former city Leningrad renamed Gumari, which is the historical name of contemporary Gyumri. 992, Gumari changed to Gyumri. Gyumri has always been agriculture hub in Armenia. All right, it faced enormous natural disaster. The earthquake in 1988, it continued to generate cultural activities, and the best example was Gyumri Biennale. It was 2000 till 2012, which aimed to revitalize the life in the city through art and culture. That included large-scale activities with local and international art community. Even though this biennale is stopped, Gyumri continues to be a center of Asian cultural initiative. In order to establish this tradition, we decided to kick off the International Gyumri Art Week. Gyumri has a very strong position as a cultural city, but not a city of contemporary art. Despite numerous museums, galleries, and artists, it's necessary to raise the position of city of art through to national and international levels. This year, the Gyumri Art Week lasted almost 2 weeks and included exhibitions, performances, installation, and artist in residency. Comparing with art weeks in Berlin, Wien, or London, we planned to engage not just to one city, but to extend our activity to far regions and villages to make the art examples for all. Gyumri Art Week is a leading contemporary art platform in the South Caucasus, reflecting the contemporary art field of Armenia. Gyumri Art Week will contribute to decentralization of cultural life in Armenia, tourism development, preservation of the environment with contemporary art methods, raising social problems, non-formal art educational programs. The locality nature of the concept and issue raised by Gyumri Art Week to consider Gyumri and the regions of the art research field. International Gyumri Art Week is a contemporary art festival held annually. Gyumri Art Week presents contemporary art in all its manifestations, new media, exhibitions, performances, video art, installations, concerts, visit to art studios, art residency in different regions of Armenia, panel discussion, non-formal art educational program, actions in public space. From August 2023, the second Gümrüğe Art Week, which took place in addition to Gümrüğe, also including Yerevan, Ozun, and Stepanavan, where numerous exhibitions and projects were held. Also, I would like to say also for the branding for the festival, the branding for the art week is closely connected with the city architectures and with symbols led by masters from the city. The second International Gümrüğe Art Week is organized by the Transcultural Foundation, Culture Group, Gümrüğe National Academy of Fine Arts of Armenia, Gümrüğe Technology Center, the Levy Art Hotel, in partnership with the support of CYLAND Art Media Art Lab. This year, our art weeks stepped into a very important stage of collaboration with respected organization as CYLAND, and we hope to enlarge this list of institutional cooperation for the next year. Just I would like to say in this way, curators was me, and also from CYLAND Art, Patricia Olynyk, and also was organizer of the festivals, Armand Adelsyan, Valkasyan, Alexander Ignasyan, Bella Alchinan, Alexei Mamukyan, Dasha Rafis, and Katerina Krapunova. Some photo you can see from the conference and opening of festival, and during the day we have it also to letters Ashot and Shohadat Kazaryan. Opening of festival, we make opening of the festival, Gümrüğe Technology Center, and you can see some photos and artists who was participate in our festival. The number of video art and installation was excited and expectations, and we can issue that never even Gümrüğe has seen this kind of quality and of video art, and to be accessible for the community. International Gümrüğe Art Week 2023 will present synthesis and revision of the application of new research models, as well as rethinking the perception of modern human in the vision of time, where art and political palettes intersect. Now you saw the photos from the Gümrüğe and from the museums. This is part of exhibition from the gallery of Miami de Las American Sisters, and gallery 25. And we opening some for events in Yerevan. One of it was apart from project Ashot in Pakisan Foundation, and we have a group exhibition in Museum of Russian Art. And also group exhibition was the Museum of Folk Arts This year we have also brought participants of students from Academy of Fine Arts of Gyumri. This was important to engage future professionalism into a dialogue which we know artists. We make also some installation and concerts. The stage Philharmonia of Armenia of Babajania concert hall. From 14 till 20 of August, we make two spaces, artist in residency programs, and one of residency was in Gyumri, and also we make opening of three Armenian artists who made in this space installations. And we work in Stepanabad, Stepan Sharman House Museums, and this is for me one of the important part for this residency. In this year we have there's two artists, Mark Lee and Gor Martalyan. They stay in Stepanabad, and in museum Stepanabad there's work, and they make a workshop for the community. Also, we had some studio visits. We visited Mesopyan, some concerts from Lila vocal quartet. And second residency, it was also same time, 14 to 19 reduced in residency. They stayed French and Italian artists who work there, and they also do some workshop for the children. And also we have different kind of also video installations in conclusion, I would like to embed all the partners regard us organization, be the museum, so will be technology center or working area, or have invaluable contribution to making the international art big. Thank you for attention.
Thank you so much, Sargis, for your historical perspective. And now, tomorrow, the CYLAND Fest 15 is opening up. So let's explore CYLAND's 15th anniversary and the journey. Let's watch the short video presentation. That was just a visual exploration. So now, as we're discussing today, we see that the art world and art communities are extremely hybrid nowadays. I mean, some of you are in Yerevan, Armenia. I am moderating from from New Jersey. So let's start our conversation. The first question will be, what are your thoughts on the opportunities the science discoveries and the new technologies might offer or create for the younger generation of artists and digital communities? What are the challenges and the role of new technologies, especially like AI, which Ellen mentioned, in reconnecting emerging and established digital practitioners and the communities? And what is the biggest challenge nowadays? What can you predict might happen in the communities with the next 5 or 10 years? Ellen, let's start with you. Please do share your wisdom.
Yes, that's a wonderful question. I was very struck with the last talk that you presented, and I wrote it down so I have it in my memory, that the relationship to local communities, but in terms, especially going forward, of trauma, you mentioned an earthquake and the response. And I thought that was very interesting because we all realize that art has a special ability for healing. And this is something, it seems to me, especially as we are encountering global warming, that we need to consider. And it seems a very natural part of a program dealing with art, science, and technology. The term you used was to cope with socio-psychological problems. So I'd actually like to hear you expand on the kind of problems you were talking about.
I remember when we saw this all what happens in Levy. It was for the social. It was not so hard. It was so problem and after some time, 10 years, then we start to study in Fine Art Academy. That time in Gyumri, they start to build Gyumri Biennale. And really this was for me and for the, I think for the local, for the local people, it was one of good opportunity, one of good chance to start again life and to understand where are we and what we want from this life and what we can do and why I say unfortunately today we don't have this festival and now also I saw these problems what we have in our city and today we are trying to build this new festival to be art big and to be international artist and why I talk also something about the video arts, new media arts and then today when we saw this all artworks what we
have it in the art that we show, and we also understand that the people or the children who are coming, who are participate in our workshops, master class. It's also somehow I go back in that time, and I saw today in our villages we have also similar problems. Okay, today the life is going, but problems, social problems. We have like this. In this case, it's important start from the villages and to the artists, and we can work there and to make a workshop step by step, like in the future, like after 10 years, maybe we can really in our cities, two cities like my city, it's many different things that happen, many different life you can see just for one small city.
Thank you, Sargis. And now, Patricia, I know you're an artist, but also you have an important role of art educator. So what are your thoughts on the same questions? What are new technologies and the science discovery can offer for the younger generation of artists and the digital communities?
It's an excellent question, and I have a full-time post at Washington University, and so education is always inextricably woven with everything that I think about. It's impossible not to. So, I think when I was a younger artist, I was very interested in art, science, technology, and there was just no access. I mean, you might see an exhibition, but it didn't mean you had the chance to meet those artists or talk to the curator. And so one way that both working artists and also younger emerging artists end up having access to technologies, to people that they can glean ideas from and work across campus with, is through the institution. And what I love about the media festivals is now you have this whole other venue of access for inspiration. It's really interesting. The person who is the volunteer coordinator was kind enough, very kind enough, to pick me up at 3:30 a.m. from the airport. And I asked her, what, in your opinion, is the most sort of sustaining aspect of CYLAND for younger generations of artists? And she said something that I think was really aligned with my thinking, that younger people are extremely interested in, of course, how rapidly ChatGPT and AI and technologies are evolving, but they don't necessarily know how to turn the key when it comes to merging those sort of cultural movements with the art world. So I think festivals really merge those worlds for the younger generation, and it doesn't necessitate then that the students necessarily be in a program with strong technologies. Ultimately, I would always encourage a young emerging artist who is interested in art side tech to try to go to school where they have access to people and the technologies that they want to work with. The festival is a wonderful place to begin to understand even what your own interests are. I see a tremendous educational capacity with the with media festivals. I think CYLAND has done a marvelous job of that.
Thank you, Patricia. And now we're coming back to Ellen. I know that issues of climate change is extremely important for you. So how we may balance and set the priority and probably collaborative response to the ongoing impact of the climate change?
Well, it's interesting because I also, in July, came back from another meeting, a transnational meeting of artists named FEM, many of whom, Patricia was there, as well, many of whom were dealing with issues of climate change. And I think what I have seen is that many of the artists are working with simulations, that they're setting up experiences so people can put themselves in a given situation and see how to react. And they're doing this in very knowledgeable ways because they're working with data streams, they're working with visualizing, data visualization, but none of this is dry or academic. This is very present and with us. Interestingly, for me, one of the very memorable things I saw in St. Petersburg during CYLAND 2019 stayed with me. And I can describe it. Unfortunately, I do not know the name of the artist, although I took a shot of it. I have this somewhere. But it was a group of, to me, would look like either ceramic or clay sculptures. And it was about the person's handling of a cell phone. And it captured almost at once, at the same time, synchronistically, the sense of how the hand is still implicated in advanced technology, the role of matter, the role of the physical and personal and expression, even within the use of technology. So a lot of the contributions that I saw when I visited CYLAND have to do with relaying a sense of physical experience. So it's not an academic thing, it's a very almost personal thing.
Thank you, Ellen. As we discussed today, the digital technologies and communities today are extremely hybrid. So what are your thoughts on reimagining and maybe combining formats, international in scope versus the grassroots? What are potential ways of collaboration of among transnational institutions? And what is social media and will play the role into this, and how the social media transforms the function of art and reshape the contemporary culture and the community. Sargis, maybe I'll start with you. How is the social media and the new formats helps your project?
I see it a lot as a function of speed, but I think you're going, yes, you have to comment on this, please.
Should I repeat the question?
No, I think
the question was like on a hybrid formats. How is the because you based in Armenia and that's your second year, and how is the social media and the new technologies help your festival? How you see yourself moving forward?
First year when we start to make this festival, that time really we don't have many different kind of works like video installations, and I can say in this year what we saw, like we really see it was for me and for the people or for the organization who work with Curia Art Week. This was for me very good cooperation with Silent Art Lab. Like we work with curator Victoria Yushkina, maybe some 8 months we work, and we also, and here important things we show the artists and video installations, like they have links in our museums, like all the works what we show, they have links, like we not using just a territory our museums, and we start to think also in this part and how this video arts and how the can be made discussion which the people and which our museums too, and I think this is one of good what we have today, and we will for the next year we will start to make more video arts or video installation, not only just in our city, also in villages.
May I ask a question, please? First of all, thank you for your presentation. Very interesting. But what is my question, in which I'm really interested? What do you think about the relationship between digital art in general, the world, and the place, a certain place? Is there any correlation you think between, because we all know that IT people, technological people, they don't need a place actually. They are nomadic, they do whatever they want with their computers. Once they have computer and internet, it's done. So what do you think the correlation is between digital arts and the place, a certain place? What is it? What is the relationship of doing things in situ? Is it different, or I mean, 99% of artworks can be exhibited in Europe, in Yerevan, I guess, but except of exposing them, the way of exposing them, and related to the venue, let's say. Is there any difference, any relationship?
I'd like to have
Yes, please.
fabulous, which is that Michael and Johnson wrote a really wonderful book called Metaphors Are Us. And I think that they proved in that and various experiments that others had done that neurologically, if you look at art and attention, that even if you look at the most abstract thing, you tend to read into it human experience, so that this happens with Mondrian, it happens with Rothko's. I think that the referent is there in the neurons, that a lifetime of experience makes these connections.
This is what I talked about in my talk, is the local and the international being a kind of global, and local is global. And that's right. And I posed that question: what is CYLAND here in Yerevan compared to what is CYLAND in St. Petersburg? Right? They're two very unique experiences that have the opportunity to highlight the place discourse and the place production where it is hosted. And I think this radical change.
I was thinking about place research.
Yeah.
It takes time. I'm conscious about that. Is how they correlate for you, and is it a must to go for research before introducing different things in a place, or anyway it will be digested, let's say?
Well, it's an excellent question. I mean, I live in the Midwest, in the United States now. I was born and raised in Canada, but I live in the Midwest. And the Midwest is known as a flyover zone. It's something actually that a lot of, that it's never discussed at any of the conferences, that really to be seen, you have to be in New York or you have to be in LA. This is a real problem for anybody in between in terms of access. So my school, I encouraged my university to host a conference a few years ago called Central Standard Time. And it posed that essential question that I think can be posed in any location. Is there something particular to the location that generates a unique kind of work? Or are we in such a global context at this point in time that where you live doesn't matter? Right. This was the whole point of the entire talk.
It's a correlation to that.
Well, it's a different question depending on where you live, right? So you can host an entire conference around that question. Some people will tell you where you live matters, and other people will tell you we are globally connected and it's a stupid question.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just two faces of the same matter. Maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
For me, but it is also important for me to have not only global. I mean, globally, we understand everything. But there are peculiarities, I think, which are especially interesting in different places. Even if Venice Biennale is a place for international, global, and so on and so forth. Anyway, it is something very peculiar, very detailed, and very special. Also, Yerevan, with Armenia, or whatever place. I mean,
I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, I think it's a very important questions. It's a questions for another several hours, like local versus global, international in scope versus grassroots. Ellen, you mentioned some resources. So what do you think are the best sources for the people who would like to dive deeper into our conversation? Can you share some of the ideas with the audience, if there is something like the most important to remember from today's discussion, what it will be?
Question.
For me, I think that that such festivals are a reminder of our history. And I'm coming back to this one global versus local. When I was talking about everybody brings to what they see their own experience, so that art isn't how art communicates. It goes beyond boundaries. It goes beyond particular locales. But people bring in these experiences. And I think for me, art that becomes memorable is something that really touches that nerve. And I know that many people could see it and have their own response and interpretation. And I think that it's invigorating. It's invigorating to see what CYLAND has accomplished. And seeing it in this location is also very touching, because we know many of the political circumstances that have occasioned it. I think everybody involved is really quite brave. And I'm thrilled to be part of it.
And Patricia, would you like to elaborate on some of the maybe sources for the people who want to dive deeper into the conversation? What's one of the best sources?
And she's asking for questions. I don't know what the source would be. I think she's asking for sources. I don't know what the sources would be. I mean,
maybe to follow some of the, for example, like Ars Electronica or I.C.A. Festivals as well. They digest some of the archives.
Well, I mean,
Or maybe there is no sources.
Yeah, I think we're getting into very philosophic areas of what the function and origins of art are. So that it doesn't have one simple answer.
I would like to say that, you know, one thing that that is linked to this conversation that for me is so impressive about what CYLAND is doing by choosing such a timely and relevant book to base the festival on. I think it engaged all of our sensibilities in very unique ways. And so when you kind of commission yourself to make a new work based on that festival, I think that's really special versus perhaps, you know, being curated into an exhibition with a pre-existing work. I think for me, and I think for Ellen as well, that the topic that Nassim Nicholas Taleb's book, Antifragile, really was so timely and relevant for the precarious world that we live in, that I made for myself. I made a completely new work that I would not have made otherwise were it not for this festival. And that's where the festival becomes a kind of really significant point of collaboration for art. And I think that this is what distinguishes this festival and others where either self-commissioning or actual commissioning happens. And one of the earliest examples of bringing art, science, technology together, and Ellen will remember this, was Exit Art and the Paradise Now exhibition, which commissioned artists working at the Artside Tech Nexus to produce new work for that show. And that sometimes is part of the curatorial process. So while we weren't expressly requested to make new work that was, you know, aligned with thematically, I think that a lot of us did really take the very well chosen and the very meaningful theme of this year's festival and to take on new projects and new ways of thinking about how we would build work that would fit into the festival. And I think this is significant. This is where it almost begins to feel like a kind of collaboration. And I think this is something significant that a really good festival like CYLAND does.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ellen Levis. Thank you, Patricia Olynyk. Thank you, Sargis Hovhannisyan, for your sharing your thoughts and perspective on the evolution, reimagining of transcultural community. Thank you, the audience. Thank you, the audience, for your questions. Thank you, Leonardo, Laser New York, and Laser CYLAND, the CYLAND Foundation, Institute for Contemporary Art, the Kolodzei Art Foundation teams, and of course, the Leonardo Journal and the extended community for fostering and guiding our dialogue today on art and science. So let's continue the conversation. Follow Laser, Leonardo Art and Science Evening Rendezvous on social media, and hopefully you will enjoy the tomorrow's opening of the festival. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's yeah.
Can I ask a question? Of course. Yeah. So just would like to pay your attention to the terminology you use. The term was used art, the art. But even based on the last video clip, this is not this is a specific art based on new technology, digital technology, and even if you compare it with the classical usual art, you can, for example, you can make a picture with a pencil or something very simple tools. But now the problem is it's not just a better tools; it's another kind of tools. I think it's like if you have no new kind of technology demands, you cannot do this kind of technology. It means, like my opinion, so maybe it's better or correctly use not just the art, but maybe a specific art, or maybe digital art or something else. What do you think? Thank you.
Now it really feels like you in a silent New York when the most important is part of the informal conversation.
Right, camera on. So are you, just to be clear about your question, are you drawing the distinction between digital art and other forms of contemporary art that don't involve technology?
You know, just like every time in any discussion, quite important is to use the correct term.
Yes.
Correct term. Art or specific art. The big difference is here. It's not just a better tools, it's another kind of tool.
Mm-hmm.
But it means maybe to use another kind of term, not just art, but maybe digital art or something like this. So don't you think so?
Oh, yes, because these presentations were all on digital art histories and digital art production. So this is very much a different evolution than the contemporary art world. I mean, they co-evolved and they cross-informed one another, but digital media histories and digital art histories are unique histories for sure. So yes, I agree. My presentation, all of our presentations were about digital media festivals and the kind of digital media art that can come out of that, and what kind of capacities those festivals have for creating new communities, new younger generations of artists that are wanting to work with technologies in some way. So yeah, I'm absolutely agree that it's a unique history and a unique kind of set of circumstances for producing work. I don't think it's where we are in today's society. You know, my students have all been born with a tablet in their hands. So for them, it's synthesized, but for my generation, it wasn't synthesized.
You see the real differences, like another kind of, it's not just the same art, like better or another kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It means there's another thing. Maybe digital or something. You think, what do you think about that? To apply this kind of new kind of therapy.
Yeah. Well, the Media Art Histories conference is very much about the historicization of all of those terms and strands of history, and they have amazing archives. So, and that's happening in Venice, I think next week. So we could all hop airplanes and go there. But yeah, they're very specific about their terminology, for sure.
No, I mean, I think that Oliver Grau has assembled a wonderful historical archive of digital media, which you might be interested in looking through.
He's the one running the conference in Venice.
It's GRAU.
GRAU, Oliver Grau.
And one more, like now we know about the artificial intelligence. So if you have a good new technology device, then you can use artificial intelligence, and it means that it's a kind of competition. Digital art and then another kind of art. I mean, like technical art or something, like technological art, something like this. Here it's something that we have to think about.
Well, technology is always advancing, innovating, but the plane doesn't eliminate the bicycle or motor scooter.
Yeah, and there is a term for it. It's called AI art. It's out there. So you might want to look at Stephanie Dinkins, who is working with AI to try to train racial bias out of AI programs. And she works with an animatronic figure of herself to pose questions that challenge the unconscious race bias of the program. So it is called AI art. It's out there. Yeah.
It's like what kind of role, human role here.
She's a good one to look at.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for today's conversation. And I think we'll be continuing this discussion over the duration of the festival in person because that's what's the best about the festival. It's the human interaction. Now, I'll be communicating virtually, but for all of you, I'll wish you a great personal communication and inspiration for the future artistic ideas.
Wonderful. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you so much for your participation.